Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Monterey Peace and Justice Center. If you haven't been here, we're a nonprofit, all volunteer organization. Our mission is to cultivate and mobilize the people of Monterey County to cultivate peace, justice, nonviolence, democracy, and environmental sustainability here and around the world. So thank you for being here this afternoon. We are a working board. We've got several members here. I'll introduce them so you know if you have any questions you can talk during the break or afterwards. McGregor Eddie here in the front. And we have Judy Karras. We have Lynn Hamilton, Sydney Ramsden Scott, and is that it today? You. And me, and I'm the board. So I just want to say, if you're not getting the Monterey Peace and Justice, or the Peace Coalition's weekly peace calendar, you can sign up for it on the table, the yellow tablecloth table there, and you'll get a list of events happening here at the Peace Center and around Monterey County. Peace and justice events, environmental justice events. So just sign up and you'll get that in your email box, or you can find it online at peacecentral.org, which is also our website. So our sponsors for today are Monterey Peace and Justice Center, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Beverly Bean here is the president of that organization, and she's here today. Veterans for Peace, Local Chapter 46, and the Peace Coalition of Monterey County. So, and also I'm adding Sudan Unlimited because one of our speakers, Esther Sprague, is the co-founder and director of that organization. So I also want to thank Dr. Inam Saud and Elsadig Suliman for helping to organize this event, for reaching out to the Monterey Peace and Justice Center to bring us up to date and make us aware of what's happening in Sudan. So this is a teach-in, so we'll have time for your questions a little bit later on. So right now I'm going to introduce Elsadig Suliman.
Okay, thank you all for coming today and join our effort to attract attention of what happened in Sudan. Thank you for the Monterey Peace Center and their sponsors. And one of the things is we do this event is to let the people know about this forgotten tragedy happened in Sudan, on suffering of the people, millions of the people displaced because of the war, and millions also need help. And so it's gonna be kind of informative about what is going in Sudan. So Sudan, as we know, is in Africa, is used to be the biggest country in Africa with 1 million square miles, and it have a lot of resources from all kind of resources, a lot of water. The Nile starts there from Ulwan White Nile, and it's a long journey for Sudan as a state. It started from when it took its independence from British and Egyptian colonization on 1956. And after that, it start the war because of the people seeking for justice. I mean, our people there, they don't maybe get it because Sudan is a very diverse. So it have like 500 and more plus ethnicity, with speaking like more than 300 language. Some of those languages and some of those ethnicities, you cannot find it outside Sudan. Few of them is shared with our neighboring. But all these diversities need to be how you can manage them. So the government is failed on that. That's led to the coup of military on 1958, like 2 years and few months after the independence. And but at that time, the people of Sudan, they showed us they need justice and they need freedom and they need peace, because they maybe is the fairest uprising, and it's just people, they took it out to the street in a peacefully. They asking to throw the government, and that's happened in October 1964. And one of the things ignite that because it's the war, and the war starts with what they call it North and South, but it's because the Southern people, they ask for federation, they ask for to be recognized as in countries, so these countries cannot be like governed by a central government. And one of the things that ignite that revolution in 1964 is actually the issue what happened on those ongoing war. And after that, they form a democratic elected government, and this government tried also to seek peace, but also again is interrupted by another coup in 1969. And the people of that coup, they try to make an agreement, and they succeed to make an agreement and stop the war. That's the first time the war stopped from the independence. In 1972, with agreements called Addis Ababa Agreement, because it's been held aside in Ethiopia. And that's the only time when we have a peace and we have like kind of development and all that stuff. But again, the same those military who they signed the agreement, they dishonor that agreement on 1983, which is led again to the war is broke again on May 1983. And again after that, with 2 years, people again go to the street and overthrow the military government and go back to the democratic elected government, which is again with this ongoing war and we cannot reach to the peace. Again, the military come back on 1989, which is that's the worst one because it took like 30 years. And during that 30 years, the people, they never stop fighting and calling for peace. I mean, it's a long struggle led by all Sudanese effort from the years, especially women, people. They go and reach one of the maybe revolution, even come after what they call it Arabic Spring. But even during Arabic Spring, they start struggling because in 2013, also in September 2013, they uprise, but it's with a very brutal, I mean, from the government, they suppress that, led to killing like tens of people on the street. But on December 2019, people again, led by the young people, especially the women, on the street, and they struggle starting from December for almost till April 11. They are demand peace, freedom, justice. And they call it because it's a peaceful. So even their main slogan is Silmiya. Silmiya in Arabic, which means a peaceful. So, and they managed to overthrow the government, and then they start the process to transition to democratic elected government. And now that's because of the deal with the military. At that time, the military, they formed two. During this all, I have to go back a little bit to remind us in 2011, because of the other government, the last coup, they also make an agreement with the South Sudan and stop the war and led to give the people their referendum for either to be in a country or set their own state, and that's happened to separation of Sudan or on that time, because they insist, that government insists to rule with a central government, and that's one of the big issue happened and really upset people, and maybe also one of the things that people, they start struggling to overthrow this country, which is this government, which is divide the country. Okay, but after what happened in 11, in the last revolution here in 2019 to 2020, and overthrown this government. They try to set what we call it here, that's the transition period to go to the civilian-led, elected civilian-led government. And this is what happened after that with this deal with the same military, and at that time they formed what they call it Rapid Support Forces, RSF, which is being part of the government officially troops, even itself, what they call it paramilitary. But at that time, that deal is we get into 4 years, a transition period, and then we go to the election, and with the 2 houses mainly, the government, the executive branch, which is led by a civilian, and they put like a presidential council for mostly from the military and their paramilitary forces, and they have to switch even the head of which is represented here, the head of the state, is supposed to be 2 years, the first 2 years for the military, and the second half is have to go to the civilian. When it's come to that, to hand it out, they make another call. Okay, which is that's in October 25, 2 years ago, 3 years now, it's 20, what's the? Yeah. So, and after that, also, the people they struggle, they try to bring them together. So, we have to make one army, and we have to start to go back to the transition to go to the election. And while they discuss on this, they have this divide between the SAF, Sudan Army Forces, and their paramilitary RSF, and that's what happened on this war. That's what the reason, that's the main reason that's ignite this war, to stop the transition, to stop the demand of our people for peace and freedom and justice. And this is our slogan for our revolution.
Could I ask you a question just to clarify? I'm getting
Yeah.
lost.
Okay.
Since South Sudan became a separate country, which was when?
That's in 2011.
All the war and revolution you're talking about and coup is taking place just in the regular Sudan? Or is there still
in
fighting
regular Sudan,
between South and regular?
Okay, till 2011, we are one country.
Right.
So we have the 2 revolutions that I mentioned in 64 and 85, and thrown the 2 military government. Those happen while they are there. And after that, the 3rd coup, which took place on June 1989, that coup is who make a deal with them. So either we go to make a radical change, like federation and all those stuff, or the people of the South, they have the right to self-determination, and they go to the referendum, and they vote for they are separate, they cannot live under this military government. And after that, the people, they start struggling. 2 years after that, they make the first uprising in 2013, which is I mentioned in September. And after that, in 2019, they make the big one, which is take like 5 months, and they overthrown the government.
Of South Sudan?
No, of Sudan. Of Sudan. Yeah, that's of Sudan. So South Sudan became a separate state starting 2011.
Right. And is South Sudan no longer fighting with Sudan?
No longer fighting, because they have their own government, they make their own army, they make their own
So since that
election.
separation, all the coups and fighting you're talking about is
This
within
happened in Sudan.
Sudan.
Exactly. It's
Thank
happened in
you.
Sudan, which is northern Sudan, but the official name is Sudan. The other one is official name is South Sudan Republic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, please, when was Omar Bashir overthrown?
Omar Bashir is overthrown at 2020 in April, 11 April 2020, after 30 years, because he came to the came to the power on June 1989. 21 is overthrown after the thing started December and then continued until April, 11 April.
2019.
2019, 11 April 2019. Start 18, December 18 till 20 April 11. That's where they overthrow.
Sorry, I jumped.
No, it's okay, because after that is 2 years, they have to hand the government to the civilian, those people, but they make their co-op again. And that's actually is held inside the main cities, because most of the military base in Sudan is inside the main city. So the war starts in Khartoum. We're gonna see the video of one guy, he's there. And that's one is mainly all people believe, and even me and all people believe that all this happens because of this revolution held by young people, especially on a lot of them are just younger generation, but they need to peace and freedom and justice. And now the things I was mentioned here is all those people, which is the leader, the real leader of this revolution. Now they're working inside Sudan with helping people and helping what they call it, we name them takaya, or the other things is like a kitchen, emergency kitchen. So those guys now they held this responsibility about feeding all those people in displaced in the two areas, the area that's controlled by Sudan Armed Forces or the paramilitary RSF, and till now they have the torch of the revolution and they do their part of job. The things is what will bring us here today, that is this war now, according not even to our numbers, but the numbers of the United Nations and the world, and you can see it here, we make a little display there. They consider it now is the worst humanitarian crisis happened in the world, and this one is leading those people, they forget it because they have a lot of things also coming in the media, but that's things why we are here even to attract attention of the things that we need to do to stop this humanitarian crisis and to help and to attract attention with our local community here. And as we know, everything starts with our local here, and then we try to make it nationwide. So people, they are here. We have hundreds of thousands of Sudanese people here actually. They are all working, they pay their tax, everything, and they are being a good Sudanese American citizen. They help in their community. And now we try to bring all people together to at least shed a light on what happened in Sudan. And I consider this is the first event here. We make it with our community here because we should come early as I said to Catherine, but we really busy about two other events of fundraising and all stuff because our people are suffering, need food, need medicine, need shelters, and even there is a worse statistics said that there is a child die every 20 minutes now on those camps, especially the camps in our neighboring Chad. And people on the camps, even those people they are fleeing, they are in worse situation. And Sudan known also during the last regime, starting 1989 and thrown by this revolution, everybody knows that or heard about the Darfur, even Sudan, because we have a good coalition here in America that's focused on that and bring people together and attract attention to that. And even those people still, till now they are suffering because they are living still in displaced camps inside the main city in Darfur. And now this is their second time to be displaced. So they are already flee the first war and managed to be on those camps, and now the second war for them. And as I said, the most horrible things is the numbers. So the numbers is, I bring the last updated by the US aid, but they took it for that. I think this is on August, this second one, August 28th. August 28th. So they make update in their website every month. And even we have to try to update it because this is our main display. And now even just I bring that and put it over the old one. Yeah. So it's a tragedy, okay? And it's need a big coalition to put it on the news, to put it on the people awareness. And even when I go on the numbers, that's like the USA, that's the most humanitarian agency, it gives foreign aid. And I compare the number as they allocated to Sudan with the allocated to the rest of the world is nothing. It's nothing really, and we need a lot. And the thing is, our country is not need that, because if we are in the peace, as I mentioned before, we have sources and everything, oil, gold, phosphate, name it, everything. And even as a population, we are not that a big country. So even if we manage to invest on those sources, we're gonna be richer than any country. And this is not is exaggerate or something like that, but those are the numbers. That's numbers, you can find it in any website, you can find it in any data in any university around the world, with our sources, with our different climate, with our different, we have anything, starting from the fertile land, it's water, which is all worth looking about the water. We have more water than every other country in Africa. Okay, as a conclusion, because I gonna also give for my colleague here, Esther Sprague. So I think it's the journey toward peace and democracy. That's the main journey of Sudanese people, and demonstrated 3 times. No other countries I know. That's 3 times they came military coup, and people they uprise in a peaceful manner, and that's showed how strong those people and how well that they need really to get their freedom back, to contribute to the world as a peaceful people, nice people. They have diversity in everything. If I'm talking about the music, we have a lot of instruments. You cannot find it even outside Sudan. People, they don't know more about us, because I think most of the Sudanese people, they have humble. We don't have, even in our culture, that you can talk about yourself. And that's really, even when they came here and they asked them, when they were here and asked them, okay, write about what you do, they are shy to write, to say, that's I did. That's one of the things. That's why we are not in the media. And as I said, we are doing that as a cry to attract attention. And I really appreciate the chance that they give us to us today as a start for a lot of events and for people to pay attention. And thank you a lot for your coming and the time that you gave us so we can talk about Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to see that there's more attention given to this, to what's happening in Sudan. And we'll have a video later, and now we'll hear from Esther Sprague. Esther Sprague is the founder and director of Sudan Unlimited, co-founder of Act for Sudan and South Sudan Women United. And she's been advocating for peace and democracy in Sudan for over a decade. And she'll tell you her story and tell us more about what's happening in Sudan.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Esther Sprague. I'm the founder and director of Sudan Unlimited. The experts in the room are the Sudanese that are here, so I'm just going to tell you my experience, and it's a little bit simplified, but again, they're the experts, and I'm just telling you my experience as an activist trying to support Sudanese and South Sudanese. I was introduced to Sudan in 2003 by Mamir Korajak. He was one of the lost boys of Sudan, and as a young child, his village was bombed by the Bashir regime. He was in southern Sudan, Bashir is in the north. And he, along with so many children, walked across to Ethiopia, and they were forced out of Ethiopia back to Kenya, where he was a refugee at the Kakuma refugee camp. And he eventually was able to come to the United States. He went to school in San Diego, and he came and spoke to our church community and told his story. And I met him afterwards, and our pastor invited him to spend the summer with us here I live in San Francisco. And it was 2003, and he was very concerned about what was happening in Darfur because it mirrored what had happened to him as a child. And he would just talk to us constantly about Darfur, what was happening in Darfur, and we needed to do something. And so I didn't know anything about Sudan. I didn't know anything about genocide or mass atrocities or anything like that, but I just learned from him and had the privilege of meeting so many Sudanese and South Sudanese over the years. And originally I think the war that the North waged against Southern Sudan was viewed as sort of a religious war, a Muslim against Christian war. But then the center, the North, waged war against Darfur, which was Muslim, and so that didn't quite make sense anymore. And then we started thinking of it as, no, this is a racial war, this is an ethnic war. And then we realized that the regime really used whatever it needed to divide the people of Sudan and Southern Sudan so they could maintain power and control over the resources of the country. And then, as Sadiq mentioned, in 2019, excuse me, the people of Sudan decided, they kind of had enough with this regime. Millions of Sudanese took to the streets, led by youth and women, and eventually overthrew the Bashir regime. Now they did that in somewhat cooperation with the existing military, and but they were able to form a transitional civilian-led government. And which, I would say progressed for a couple of years or a year and a half, something like that. But as it got closer and closer towards addressing the interests of the military, there was quite a bit of pushback. And eventually, the military staged a coup and took back control of the government. But even with the military leaders, there's the Sudan Armed Forces, and then there's this paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, which used to be the Janjaweed that fought in Darfur 20 years earlier. And there's two leaders. Burhan led the Sudan Armed Forces, still does, and Hameti leads the Rapid Support Forces. So now we have these two leaders ruling the country with their own interests in mind, and it's clearly not the interests of the Sudanese people. Well, eventually they wage a war against each other for control of the country. But in actuality, really in opposition to the people of Sudan, who have just suffered terribly. The Washington Post did an investigative report that was just released this week in conjunction with 3 other news agencies, and again, highlighting sort of the ethnic overtones of this current war. They go back to 2023 when Khartoum and Kassala, Darfur were attacked. It's really important to read that account, and they share how the Arab fighters in the RSF are attacking these Africans, and calling them slaves. And so again, there's many dimensions to this, but I think, as we all look at the world, we have to look at how do leaders find ways to divide us? And how do we begin to look at each other in ways that are not healthy or helpful? instead of looking at each other as people who have a right to life, who have a right to freedom and justice and peace, the things that the Sudanese youth and women and men took to the streets to achieve not long ago. So I think it's worth looking at the numbers that the Sudanese are experiencing and that are a result of this war. The United States estimates that over 150,000 people have been killed. Again, there's no reporting inside the country. It's likely much higher than that. The United Nations predicts that 750,000 people are on the brink of starvation, if you can imagine that. UNICEF reports that 3.7 million children will face acute malnutrition in Sudan this year. 14 million children need urgent humanitarian assistance, and 24 million children are out of school. 24.8 million of Sudan's 51 million people are in significant need of help, so almost half the population. As activists, we've urged the United States and others to take action, and this has occurred to some extent. President Biden has appointed a special envoy, who I would say is working on this around the clock, trying to help achieve peace. The United States and other governments have applied sanctions to the warring parties. The U.S. and others are providing humanitarian assistance, not enough. There aren't enough donations, and the humanitarian assistance that is available is being blocked by the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. There is an arms embargo that's been in place, the UN arms embargo, and it was just renewed, thankfully, but it has not been extended to all of Sudan. Probably more importantly, it's never been enforced. So we know that there are countries that are supplying arms that are affecting people in Darfur. The ICC continues to work, and it's likely there will be more indictments in the fall, is what I've been told. There is a UN fact-finding mission that's in place and making important statements about what they're uncovering, crimes by both the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. Our own Secretary Blinken made an atrocities determination saying that war crimes, crimes against humanity, and ethnic cleansing are taking place. And yet, with all of this, the violence and suffering in Sudan continues. And it continues with very little awareness or reaction by the general public. What is noteworthy is that President Biden has not raised Sudan. And in my opinion, if the President of the United States doesn't raise it, the impression is it is not a priority of the United States, and it doesn't need to be for other countries. So there are countries, allies of the United States, like the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, who are supporting and fueling the war. And there's important questions we should be asking. One, why isn't Sudan getting the attention it needs and deserves? And how can we support Sudanese in their struggle to live and achieve freedom, peace, and justice? We have a petition that you can sign that encourages President Biden to speak out on Sudan. It calls for him to mobilize international support, to call on governments, including our allies who are fueling the war and famine, to scale up humanitarian assistance and support local efforts by youth and women, to support neighboring countries to ensure aid and refuge is offered to those who are fleeing, and to prioritize accountability measures, including documentation and evidence collection. Sadiq and Inam and I had a call with Senator Butler's office a couple weeks ago, and they said they aren't hearing hardly anything from their constituents about Sudan. They're hearing a lot about Palestine, but they're not hearing anything about Sudan. So it's very important that we reach out to our members of Congress, let them know that this matters to you, and encourage them to do what they can to raise awareness about what's happening and to pressure President Biden. This is an election year. It's a good time when politicians are listening And it's a good time to go to a town hall meeting and ask them questions about Sudan and what they're going to do about it. I have a website called Sudan Unlimited, and I'm posting actions there that you can take. There's a take action page, as well as I'm listing different analysis and events and different things so that you can keep up to date on what's happening in the country. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for your interest in Sudan. And again, I encourage you to talk to the experts in the room who can help you learn as much as you'd ever want to know about the country and the amazing people that live there. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Right now, we're going to see a short video. Elsadig brought this. It just gives you some background, and it addresses the media blackout on this, and just gives you more information. So.
There is a war raging on right now that no one is talking about. While the whole world has its eyes on Palestine and Ukraine, the world's worst humanitarian crisis is currently unfolding in Sudan. An estimated 150,000 people have died, about 12 million are displaced, and the capital city Khartoum is pretty much empty and destroyed. This is not a competition about which country is suffering most. This is about speaking about Sudan and raising awareness about a country that has been completely neglected, and showing you guys how to help. And caring about Sudan first starts with knowing a bit more about Sudan. The reality is that few people ever hear about Sudan outside of Sudan, whether it's at war or not. And usually no one really cares about what they don't already know or feel connected to somehow. And the few who do hear about it usually think, another African nation at war, the black people fighting against each other. Oh, and they're Muslim and Arab too. That explains it. Thinking like that is problematic in so many ways. This reasoning stems from racial empathy bias. And that's because there's not enough humanization of the Sudanese people, their culture, history, and their struggles, which I'm also guilty of not knowing before actually going there. But I ended up living in Khartoum for a month right before the war. And there I witnessed an extremely abundant culture, experienced things like nowhere else, and made friends for life. This documentary follows parts of those people's lives, pre-war and post-war, shows what has changed for them and the city, and tackles the question of hope and the notion of identity in a war that goes beyond two greedy generals and their thirst for power. Because the truth is, foreign countries are obviously at play here. This is a typical sneaky proxy war for external interests, control, and obviously resources, gold, oil, weapons, and strategic bases. And it's the people of Sudan who are caught in the middle of it and suffer. Tens of millions who have been neglected, impoverished, and forgotten. What's been happening in Sudan is extremely unfair and simply disgusting. And that's why humanizing the Sudanese is so important to get involved and help and understand that they matter as much as anyone else on the planet. That's why this is not just a documentary about the Sudanese war. It's the story of a city you probably know nothing about. A city full of beauty and richness that should not be forgotten or overshadowed by the current war. This is the beautiful and tragic story of the city of Khartoum and the people of Sudan. I just made an hour-long documentary on YouTube about Sudan, its people, its culture, why the war started in the first place, and if there's any hope left. Comment Sudan and I will send you the link to the video. Please watch it, share it, and donate. And maybe we can have a bit of an impact.
But besides the petition, we're gonna sign, what other actions we can take, we can do here in our community, and then maybe take it more to the state level to support Sudan?
Well, like Esther was saying, Senator Butler has not gotten any kind of any communication from her constituents about concern for Sudan. I think that it's up to us to contact them, and we do have that ability to contact our elected leaders, our senators, and state and national. And we need to make sure they know we care and that we want action. And it being an election year, yeah, our voices have a little bit more emphasis.
I mean, what she said, and moreover, is this one of the events and going on that path, okay, and with another movement, and as she mentioned, that's we met with the office like Senator Butler, and we try now to make a big coalition here, even from this peace coalition. That's why we are here today, and we're gonna start our movement now to contact even the local media and all the politicians, and we take advantage of that the election year. So we're gonna make a series of event like locally and nationwide, and we start. And I mentioned before you come, that we are really so busy, and maybe you also know we are so busy because our families, they are suffering, so everybody is focused about to get them out of Sudan or to secure their, and that's took from us a long time because it's come out of blue, this war.
Okay.
And now we start to organize to focus on this when we discover really that we are not in the media, we are not, we need to make an action, and this is one of the action actually, and the petition that we make, and now we get the contact, and Peace Center, he give us a lot of connection with the other people, and maybe we're gonna make something with them, with help of them. We're gonna organize. Definitely, we're gonna organize a big. And we're working about big things here inside, here like in Monterey, and in nationwide also.
Yeah, and there is a nationwide campaign. It's called Keep Eyes on Sudan.
Yeah.
We are an affiliate of World Beyond War, which is a global organization. McGregor Eddy, she's a regional director of World Beyond War, California region.
It's called Hands Off Sudan.
Hands Off
It
Sudan.
has a
Eyes on
petition,
Sudan.
yeah.
Okay. But there is another campaign, Keep Eyes on Sudan.
Right, there's several, yes.
So, I think back here.
Yeah, I think we have to start organizing rallies during the beginning of the revolution all over the states. Because like 3 years ago, we went to Congressman William Panetta in his office, and we know that he guaranteed that he wins here in California. Nobody competes with him. So he doesn't do anything. Or he didn't do anything. Because he didn't, even our voices are not that important to him. So in blue state, in some states that the competition is very strong and very high, they might listen to you.
Yes.
They have to listen to us. I mean,
They listen, but they do nothing.
but it's still
We
important.
ask him to push and bring that topic on the Congress floor, or push it up for discussion, but we have never heard from him, or we have never heard from any other congressman in California or wherever. But nationwide is going to be very effective.
Yeah, it's all about also supposed to start in local, and you go up. I mean, you need the local and you go up.
Yeah, all levels. Beverly.
Yeah, I'd like to make a plug for a group that I've been supporting for about 30 years. It's called the South Sudan Medical Relief. It's run by Dr. Jill Seaman, who's a MacArthur Fellow. It's located not far from Darfur near Old Fanga, and she has been there a long time through droughts, through floods, through the impacts of all these wars. And she is now, she's old like me, she's now at the point where they're training the Sudanese people who have been assisting them to take over, to be the medical officers. And it's an extremely terrific organization, beautifully run, and deserving of money, just a very practical thing you can do. Moving politicians is one thing, but they are constantly impacted. Right now it was floods. Before that it was drought and war. And they stay even when Médecins Sans Frontières leave because of the war and the threats. They were there when only planes were dropping supplies. So I recommend them to you, South Sudan Medical Relief.
Say the name again.
South Sudan Medical Relief, Dr. Jill Seaman.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kelly, and I was gonna say, now with the social media, I think that's a good way to make something go viral. Because I think right now we're all focusing on Palestine and the genocide happening there. And I think, I mean, I studied international relations, and to be honest with you, I didn't really learn much about Africa. I was more Latin America. So I think we just need to get something out of TikTok, Instagram, whatever is more popular out there, probably TikTok. Kids are listening to TikTok. And post something about it, just like a documentary, the actual documentary, and get people to learn more about it. Because if we don't know about it, we're not going to be able to do anything.
My narrative kind of different from yours in particular. but because I'm from Darfur, and I've been dealing with this issue for quite some time. So we've been to Washington, D.C. We did a lot of kind of like attention. We brought a lot of attention to the government, to politicians. We spoke to senators, representatives in this regard. But I think the issue of Sudan nowadays is
Just keep it
Closer.
closer. Thank you.
Yes.
So the issue of Sudan nowadays, or at least at the moment, is the division. That's one thing. We as people of Sudan are divided because we picked sides, some of us with one general and other people with another general. So that brings a lot of complexity and a lot of hurdles and problems to the mix. Unless we united, I think that's an issue too. We need to unite first as people of Sudan. That's number one. Without doing that, I think will be very difficult to tackle the problem. That's one. Number two, you brought that up with in regard to politicians. And I don't want to be hard on them, but they tend to listen when they need you. Elections, they listen to you. I live in Texas, my residency in Texas, so I spoke with my representative, and literally he told me that I am the only candidate in this upcoming election. So I understood from him so this issue will be delayed a little bit. So that's one, and it's very important thing. With reference to religion, I think religion, as you said about South Sudan, the war between the South and North, a lot of people thought that was the driver of the conflict, but it turned out not to be. And also, people thought maybe racial. And also, this current war is proving that race has nothing to do with this. It's all about politicians or those who want to preserve the status quo to be in power, no matter what. I think that is the root of the problem. And I don't want to go on and on, because as I said, I've been dealing with the problem since 2003. But I think in short, the thing that I want from my fellow Sudanese American, I think we need to unite, and we need to work together. So that will bring force into the table, so we can have one unified message, so we can direct that message to the target, whatever that target might be. But if we messaging different things at the same time, I think that would be confusing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for speaking. And Ms. Sprague, I'd like to ask somebody who knows, which side are the UAE and Egypt supporting at this point with their arms? Which side of the war are they supporting? The Janjaweed? And then also I want to know, which church do you belong to that is aware of this subject? Which organizations? And which side is the U.S. right now helping with food and, most importantly, arms, military assistance? Please, we need to know this. There's Ms. Sprague and you, sir.
I think the thing is very complex on this war on Sudan. So going to your first question about who this support of, we can go back to when the Saudi and United Arab Emirates, they make a coalition to interfere in Yemen, because Yemen is being, the government of the Yemen is being thrown by a militia or a group that have connection with Iran. And this happened at that time the governor, still we are as Sudan under the military regime, which is al-Bashir. And that happens in March 2015. And this is very important date, because at that time, the government of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, they asked Arab nation to come with them in that coalition to fight this militia backup of Iran. At that time, our government itself, because those areas in the region, they think that they work with their opposition group to overthrow the government in Emirates and Saudi and all the stuff. They have a bad relation with them. So the government of Sudan, the military government of Sudan, take this opportunity to show them that we can back you up in this war, and on exchange, you give us whatever money or whatever at least to be. So they start to send troops from the military, SAF, and their paramilitary, RSF. And this is very important to understand where the things is standing. Yeah. So the Emirates actually they don't have a lot of population, and even in Emirates there is like class things. So there is two big Emirates, which is Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Everybody know about Dubai because they are rich, and the other 5 they are so poor. Actually, they don't have a resource. So they make the coalition of United Arab Emirates with those one, and those people they go. So the people of the poor, the only way to get government job is to work where? In the army. And when they go to the Yemen, they start to die. And this a few population, everybody know the other and relative to him. So those 5 Emirates, they protest against the government that you are sending our kids to die in Yemen. In a war, even we don't care about it. So they start to replace them with what? With Sudanese army, and pay them and RSF. And that's where the exact involvement of United Arab Emirates on that. So when we overthrow the government with our uprising, they try to do the same thing what they do with Egypt. Because in Egypt, when they overthrow the dictator of Egypt, and people they elect the government, they pay for those people on the army to make another coup, and now which is govern Egypt. So they try to replicate what happened in Sudan by connecting with those 2 generals. Okay. In that case, they support the 2 generals at the beginning, and they support them on the October 25 coup, which is led to this war. And now when they start the war, they back up, part of them they back up the RSF, like Emirates, Egypt, they back up the other general in Burhan on the SAF, Sudan Armed Forces. For the United States is trying with Saudi Arabia to make to bring the people together for the 2 sides to make a peace or ceasefire actually for the humanitarian. That's what's they're said. But as of arm and all stuff, no, they don't. But even they have sanctions for some generals from the 2 sides, and they think that the 2 sides they have commit atrocities and they commit a violation against human rights. Yeah. So what's happened now in Sudan, and as my colleague Doctor said, that's the people. Yeah, the people they divide on that, but the people they agree on one thing, and that's what brings us here, and what we always work and try to bring the Sudanese people together for it is the cause of this war is the Sudanese people who is innocent, who have nothing to do with this war, have nothing to do with the greed of the 2 generals. They need 3 things, and they call for it since the Sudan independence: freedom, peace, justice. And that's what we bring us today together here. And even when I'm talking about any, of course, even me, I have my own opinion about this war. And maybe even I have sides, nobody knows. But the thing is that those people, they have nothing to do. And I cannot even ask them who caused this, because they need help and they need it now. And this is what we try to attract attention on that and working together. And I think we can work, because now we try to make a big coalition for all Sudanese to address the humanitarian. That's the thing is now urgent, And that's what we are forgetting about. If the United Nations itself call it the worst disasters, the worst humanitarian disasters happen ever, and nobody even hear about it. This is our job now to focus in our people, and still we divide it in politics and everything, but we agree on those people. They have nothing to do with this war, and they need help, and they need the shelter, they need the food, they need nutrition for the kids, and that's exactly, and I think the people you mentioned, for example, Gaza, I don't think now the coalition is back up Hamas, as some people they try to say, yeah? A lot of people, they see that Hamas is terrorist even, but that's not stop them to call for stop what happens there, because what happens there is affect the people that they trap. They are a victim for the war between Hamas and Israel. So we care about the people, like as I said, that's the important things. Those people are victims regardless of what their political affiliation, what their religious. Sudan, now the majority, 90% of Sudanese now, the Sudan after the separation of the South, to answer your last question, is most of them now are Muslims. Yeah, still we have a Christian in some area of Sudan, but that's the dominant religious, and most of the people are leaning towards Sufism, and that's why they always call for peace. I mean, most of the Sudanese, they are not, a few of them are extremists, but most of them, they are Sufism, and they just see Islam as a peace religious, and they want to live in peace. Thank you.
The role of women in Sudan, what I am noticing is that there are a lot of strong women voices from the women, and I don't know if these two factions, paramilitary factions, are trying to vie to make it an Islamic state. I don't know, but I just see that the voices of women really need to prevail to keep the kind of aspiration for democracy that whatever's possible. I just.
No, now I don't think that's even they brought the religious in this war is not a question at all for the two general. It's about resources and about the power itself. So for the woman, I think that the woman in Sudan, they are so strong that all those wars I talked about is actually the burden come on the woman, the woman who keep Sudan united till now, because they are never back up as a woman group, but always they work to protect the family, to protect their children, to protect the heritage of us, to keep us together. And that's role, and as I said, that role is very clear in our revolution, because in our revolution, most of the young people now, as the last statistics happens, is even the woman is more than the men in Sudan. And most of the yes, desperately, they flee the country, to the neighboring country, to Europe, to wherever. And who they stay there, stay the woman. Now they are farming, they keep the family together. And now when I'm talking about those kitchens, most of those women now, they sit there and they cook for all the people and try to protect the Sudan. So it's one of the things distinguished us is the role of the Sudanese woman to keep to keep the country. And this is not just for the Sudan, even for the South Sudan. The woman who bring the people together all the time, because they all focus on the human themselves, the people themselves, and now they have a big role on these humanitarian issues going over there.
I think what Sadiq has said is really important, because before the RSF and SAF fought each other, they were one military. So everything he was talking about with regard to Yemen was when they were together. And then it isn't until just recently that they started fighting each other. And I think it's generally understood that the United Arab Emirates, because of this relationship that Sadiq was talking about, supports the RSF, and Egypt historically has supported South, you know. And then I think, what was your third question? Oh, the U.S. The United States doesn't, to my knowledge, doesn't provide weapons to either force. There, I think it's generally understood there's kind of, I think in general the United States is trying to support the people of Sudan. Not as much as they could, but a little bit. And then my church that I attended when I met Mamir was called Golden Gate Community Church, and it was part of the Nazarene denomination.
Nazarene.
Yeah.
Thank you. But don't we supply weapons and airplanes to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I think we supply weapons. I don't know, but I think Egypt and UAE are also our allies. Do those weapons get involved? I don't know, but I guess it's a possibility.
Yes, thank you for provoking this question about women. Because you know, women, yes, women cannot fight a war like this. They are not carrying guns. They don't even have milk in their breast to feed their kids. The role of women here is very, very minimal. But if you see them in the revolution at the time of the revolution in 2019, you don't give rise. They are all you see out on the streets calling for peace, justice, and freedom. That is the question is a question of how we are going to stop this war. Nobody touched on this. It is not only to see this the humanitarian question and the humanitarian assistance coming from all over the world. But the question is now how we are going to stop this war.
Thank you. I would like to ask the folks from Darfur, who knows, anybody here from Darfur? Anybody? Okay. I have read for years about the oil in Darfur. How is this playing into the war situation now? How is this playing into the starvation of the people, and who's making the worst effect on the people of Darfur and the people of Sudan in general? Why is oil still a matter of consequence in this region and igniting the differences and the ferocity between the people of Darfur? I'd like to know more about, from Bashir to the SAS to the Janjaweed to the Rapid Response Force. Okay, but who is playing into the oil situation with Darfur, and who's benefiting and who's the victim? Please, sir.
If I can answer this question, I think there are a lot of people here who can articulate better than me here on this issue, the issue of oil and the impact on the people of Sudan in general. Let's put it that way. I think the people of Sudan, as of right now, have not yet seen the benefits of oil that we have a lot of and some other minerals. So pretty much, whether in Darfur or the rest of Sudan, people who get benefit from oil or other minerals are people on the top. So the effect is kind of equally weighted on people of Darfur and all other regions of Sudan. So that's with respect to oil production and the effect of people. Some people are affected more because like the areas that oil is produced, like you have chemical waste, and people do not treat that very well, so they dump it, and then as a consequence, a lot of people got sick. So maybe trigger some cancer. I don't know, but nowadays people complain a lot about oil producing areas of having several strange diseases. So, and that's adding to the pollution in general. So in brief, what I can say say about the effect of oil on the life of people, and I would say people of Sudan?
I don't know about much oil in Sudan, but I know that South Sudan has quite a bit of oil. And when it separated from Sudan, that created sort of a revenue problem for Sudan. And so they had the pipeline go from South Sudan up to Port Sudan. And so there was some revenue generated from, the fees to transport the oil. I think the war has put some of that at risk as well. And what this gentleman was saying, the folks that are exploring oil don't take into account the welfare of the people in the village, and there's been a lot of cancers and deformities and different things because of the way the oil's been managed and extracted. The oil has certainly not benefited the people of South Sudan either, and just the opposite actually. There's so much corruption in the South, and the vision that the people of Southern Sudan had for their country has been lost because of corruption and the exploitation of the oil and other resources of the South, which is heartbreaking for people that are also suffering tremendously, and at the same time are having people flee to South Sudan from Sudan and are doing what they can to help. Both countries are just, the people are suffering tremendously. The resources have not benefited the people, and both sides have leaders that have not led but have gotten rich and powerful at the expense of the people. It's very unfortunate. I would just like to say a couple things that I just remembered. One is the UN General Assembly is occurring now, and so there may be a couple of protests at the UN, I think on the 25th and maybe the 21st, but I'll put information on my website once I have it. And those are important times to try to raise awareness about what's happening in Sudan. And then the other thing that's interesting is that the United Arab Emirates is doing its best to be normal, to be viewed as a normal power in this world. And so they're hosting an NBA game on October 4th, I think, between the Denver Nuggets and the Boston Celtics. And there was a band that recently refused to go and perform in the United Arab Emirates because of their role in harming Sudanese. And so there's an effort to reach out to the NBA to say, this doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be engaged with UAE given their role. And then also there's a big tournament here in the United States the UAE is sponsoring. So Ryan Reynolds is very involved in the UAE, different people. So they're really working towards being seen as sort of a regular kind of normal participant in the world order, I guess you'd say. And they should be, and they can be, but their involvement in Sudan is really harmful and needs to be raised and needs to be stopped.
The first speaker mentioned a figure of 1,000 people, and I'm just wondering if there's a clarification for what the 1,000 represents. Is that the number of Sudanese that live in this area, or in California, or what? It's just a minor question, but I'm curious to know what that refers to.
No, that's referred to nationwide. We have, even in this, like California, a lot. Actually, we don't have a specific statistics, but now we try to collect at least, we have a collision of the Port Sudanese community nationwide. So the early estimates, people they talk that more than 600,000. That's at least one guy he tried to make an estimation just for how people, but people they talk about even maybe more than a million because we don't have specific statistics. This statistics comes from, that's why I mentioned it as tens of thousands or something like that, because now they work on that to, that's the first time they try to make a collision for all Sudanese community distributed nationwide in most of the city. But now, as we know, as the Sudanese, because we have a good relationship with each of us, we know Sudanese guy in every city in America. Every major city there is Sudanese people, and they start to came area. And even officially, the United States lost a lot of Sudanese refugees during the First War. So they do a program they call resettlement. So when the United States opened officially to accept refugees, like what's happened now with Ukrainian, or before with other nations, Syrian and Haitian also. Yeah, but what we know that there is a lot. I mean, major city like Khartoum has 13 million guy. Every family had somebody affiliated to her in America.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Just invite everyone to have something to drink, and there's some wonderful refreshments in the back, and you feel free to bring a plate here and sit down and continue the conversation. And thank you everybody who participated in this discussion and for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.